you ready to dream again? Let's embark on a journey together to uncover and discover your God-given dreams, ignite inspiration into your life, and empower you to pursue those dreams daily. If God's planted a dream in your heart, trust that He will provide everything necessary for its fulfillment. The right connections, the right people, the perfect timing for all of it, and more. Have faith, believe in yourself, and dare to dream big. Hi, welcome to the Dream Catalyst podcast. I'm Joan Daniels, your host, and I'm super excited to have on today my husband, Jeff Daniels. Yay, Jeff is an electrical engineer by degree, and he is amazing and brilliant, and he works for a sound chip company in quality and reliability, and he loves it. He's so good at it, and I'm so proud of him. And we wanted to come on together today, even though Jeff is not as comfortable as I am doing this by now. We wanted to tell you guys about something that we are very passionate about. We are starting a life group with our church called Breathe New Life into Marriage. And it really is all about kind of what we've been through over the last 30 years. By the way, tomorrow is our 30th anniversary. So yeah, Jeff, we made it.
Doesn't seem like nearly that long.
No, it doesn't. Anyway, so we wanted to kind of bring that experience to the table, but also you guys know, if you've listened to my previous podcast, that we've had 4 years of what I consider Jerry Springer seasons, like crazy life, crazy trauma, crazy drama, a lot of health issues, emergency surgeries, you name it, we faced it, it feels like. And it took a really big toll on us personally, on our health, on our marriage, on our family dynamics, everything. And so like in kind of where I like to tell you guys, like, I feel like we were down on our knees, like maybe even on our faces. Yeah, Jeff, maybe on our faces, like
I
praying.
prefer it down on my face, that's for sure.
Yeah. It was a rough go. And, I think there's ups and downs in marriage, and marriage can be tough in the beginning. It can be tough in the middle, and it can be tough anytime. But after that much going on, it just took its toll. And so what a lot of people don't know is Jeff and I actually separated this past year. And we were separated for 4.5 months or so. And it was the hardest, worst, toughest time for both of us. And yet, would you agree, Jeff? It was also the best, most tremendous thing that has ever happened to us.
Yes, I mean, as we've discussed, I certainly wouldn't have chosen to go down the road that we went down. But once we got down that road over, 20 some years, it couldn't have turned around any other way than it did, and have it still survive and refresh and, just be way better.
I agree. It is kind of an incredible testimony as to what is possible with God, because you and I discussed tonight, like, it's unbelievable that we're here a year later when we thought it was over a year ago. And I think, when I look back on some of our rougher years, which, we've been a huge proponent of counseling and therapy over the years. And like every 2-3 years in our marriage, it seemed like one or the other of us or both of us needed to go get some help, deal with things, whether it be mental health or it be emotional health or it be relational health. I mean, whatever. We were always a big proponent of go get it fixed, go help yourself, go figure it out. But boy, the last 4 years were just so rough. And I think you weren't taking care of yourself. I wasn't taking care of myself. And it just snowballed on us. And we got to a place where you really needed to go take care of you. Like, you really needed to not have me and the kids and not have day-to-day life. And you really needed to go concentrate on getting healthy. And in that process, I also needed the space and time in order to go and get healthy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I was probably in a more out on the limb, out there place than you were, but I definitely think we needed to focus on ourselves for a little bit and getting ourselves in the right place and kind of being back again whole in ourselves, to then re-engage in the marriage and, really be able to have some insight and sort of remove some of the old tension or baggage or etc. So I think it ended up being the best thing for us. Now, we had several people tell us that they thought the chances of us reconciling were way less if we didn't try and fix it in the same house than if we separated. And that may be true overall, but I really think us kind of taking that break, refocusing on getting ourselves in the right emotional place, really gave us a little space to disengage from all of, like I said, over 30 years, 20 some years of of tensions that had built up and things like that. It let us disengage, let it simmer, let it calm down, and then let us re-engage from a better place where we individually were.
Right. Well, and I think that we both agree that everybody's circumstance, like, please don't take that to mean if you're in that place in your marriage that we're saying, hey, y'all should separate. It was great for us because it was
For sure.
hard. It was
No,
awful. I mean,
it's
Jeff and
awful.
I met at 18, 19. We've dated since then. I mean, we had one little summer break, but since I was 18 and he was 19, we're now 52 and 53. We have been together. So that's 34 years, 30 years married as of tomorrow. And,
Hmm.
I think that you're right. I think, like, I know the therapist, well, at least one of the therapists was like, hey, I think this is a mistake. I think this is going to make y'all break up and not get back together. But I think for us in particular, and just all that we had been through, and I mean, truly, you guys, if we laid it all out, you would be like, wow, like that's a lot. Even my sweet friends who heard all of it, because I am what you see is what you get person. So everybody kind of knew, but even my friends were like, every week they were just like, I don't know how you're doing it. Like, how are you not in a padded room? Like, really though? Like, so it was a lot. It was a lot for us to deal with. And then on top of that, we had COVID, and all the normal stresses. So I hope, and I just want to stop really quick and say, I hope that this podcast brings you some inspiration if you're in that place in a relationship and you need hope, because we are really, I'm not kidding, we're better than we have ever been, in my opinion. Jeff?
Yeah, at least better than we've been for 20 years, probably minimum.
And I
um
would say for on my end, it's better than it's ever been, even when we were dating. I think everything that has happened, and we talked about this today, I think everything that's happened in exactly the way it had to unfold in order for God to do the work that he needed to do in us. I think had it unfolded a different way, we would have had maybe a worse outcome, or maybe, I mean, maybe it would have just totally shifted everything. But I just think it couldn't have gone even as bad as it got. And the fact that we had to separate and take time, like, I feel like, dang, if we hadn't gone through all that, I don't think we would have ended up here. I think it would have been so hard to actually put it back together in a healthy way.
well, I think it also let both of us, well, I think at least for me, and I from talking to you, it sounds that way as well. Really reassessing and tightening my relationship with God in particular was a huge part of me getting myself to where I needed to be. And I think from what you said, it's been that way for you as well. I think that was a really key component in us, you know, being able to focus on ourselves, and then that being one of the major focuses of our, putting ourselves back in the right place. I think just worked out perfectly for us.
I agree. Well, I want to give you guys some hope and some actual resources. So, you know how this works. When you get quiet with God and you have quiet time, what happens is, and you listen. I have to say that for myself because Joan likes to talk. That's why I have a podcast. um, so God knows I like to talk. So when I actually take the time to get quiet and listen, he will tell you what to do. He will order your steps, right? And you have to trust him all of it. And I think that's one of the big lessons for Jeff and I. We had to give it all to him. And I've talked about this, but I believe that the process over the last 4 years has been like peeling away onion layers of for both of us, is peeling off all the things that we thought were true and all the things that we thought were a given and all the things that we were attached to. I mean, in our family, in our extended family, in our marriage, our jobs. I mean, I feel like God just peeled things away right and left for both of us. And what happens at the end of that process is you realize you can trust you and God, and that's it. And I don't mean that rudely because I trust Jeff, but you know, the thing is that you realize that the only thing you for sure can count on, because something could happen to my husband at any time. You know, it could just happen. We've seen it in our church. We've seen people lose their spouse. We've seen all kinds of tragedy. So I think when you actually face life, especially when you've had a partner for 34 years, like we have, I mean, 4 of those just dating, but still we were, I feel like, best friends and, you know, in love with each other at that time. So when you've had that long of relationship and then that relationship looks like, oh, wow, who am I without them? It's just another process for God to peel away another layer to say, hey, it's you and me. It's you and me that's doing this. And, you know, people say, you know, you come into this world alone and you go out alone, and you come in with nothing and you go out with nothing. And it's the relationships and the difference that you make here and the experience and memories that you make here is what's important. And I feel like for you and I, like, wow, was that a lesson? I mean,
Mhm.
was that not just so like the smack in the face for both of us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned a lot of stuff about myself and my relationship with God as well. I realized that over the years I had become feeling like I was not worthy, not a great person. And so until I could really, so therefore I wouldn't not only not accept God's forgiveness, which I knew was there. And if you'd asked me, I would have told you, yes, I have a close relationship with him. And yes, he forgives me. But me thinking that I wasn't worthy or not a very good person made me, number one, not accept his forgiveness. And number two, if I didn't accept his forgiveness, then I certainly couldn't forgive myself for anything. And I had, crap built up from all the way from childhood to now of things that, especially like my perfectionism and just where I didn't feel that I measured up. And so really, you know, resetting that relationship and moving it a whole level closer, if you will, and really just being able to turn all of that crap that I had built up inside my head um, over to him, and finally accepting that forgiveness and realizing that I am completely worthy just as he made me and just as I am, was a huge turning point for me. And I don't know, I get, obviously I could have gotten there if we had stayed together and tried to work it out together, but I think the two of us being able to focus on that part that was really kind of just us and our relationship with God and getting us in the right place, at least it allowed me to finally fully turn things over and get rid of all of that baggage that I had emotionally built up for pretty much my entire life. So,
Yeah, I think the crux of most of all humanity's issues are the whole thing of I'm not enough. The whole idea of I'm not enough, and no matter what I do, it's not good enough. And, you know, that's just the bait of Satan. That is just the bait of Satan. That is just totally his game. We were talking about this earlier, and, you know, like we just step in that trap. It's like a big bear trap that we get our leg caught in and we don't even know it's caught, you know, and we just live our lives and we don't realize that guilt, shame, um, just lack of love for ourselves is affecting everything, and especially affecting, you know, our relationship with somebody else whom we love so and care for. So I will say that one of the turning points and the reason that we decided to do the life group specifically was because I came across these life-changing books. I came across Shanti Feldhahn for Women Only. And then Shanti Feldhahn and her husband, Jeff Feldhahn, wrote For Men Only. And you can get them on Amazon. They're not very expensive. What you want to do is the For Women Only, you want the man to read first. I know that sounds crazy. And the For Men Only, you want the woman to read first, because what you want is the opposite sex to read their book first. And then what you do, Shanti tells you this in the beginning of the books, you highlight and write in the margins and everything so that it becomes a personalized copy for your spouse about you. And then you exchange them. And then she reads the For Men Only and he reads the, is that right? No, she reads the For Women Only and he reads the For Men Only, the ones you're supposed to read. And then you can basically go chapter by chapter and discuss, or, like I think I read both books before Jeff even picked the first one up. But these were, and we've been through a lot, Jeff. We've been to marriage boot camp. We've been to therapy. We've read a bunch of books. I mean, right? But these books in particular, in this point in time for us, were just game changers. Do you agree with that? Hey, just a quick word about Dream Catalyst Life and Business Coaching, where it is our dream to help you live yours. How do we do that? Through group coaching, one-on-one coaching, workshops, or even something like a 90-day blitz, which we're getting ready to launch for fall. I'm super excited. Check us out at dream-catalyst.com. If you want to schedule your free consultation, email us at info@dreamcatalyst.com. Dream Catalyst Coaching, because your dreams are waiting for you.
Yeah, for sure. And, like we talked about earlier, I think, if you go through and just look at the main data points, they did a lot of survey of hundreds or thousands of, women or men in both cases, to statistically put together how each needs love to be shown to them, what they need from a relationship. And, you'd kind of go, well, all that seems pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. What's the big deal? But I think going through it in detail really gives you much more of a connection to how your spouse views the world and accepts love and reacts to certain things. And for me, I found a lot of it very useful to go through the For Women Only book first, because there were some areas where I was not like the majority in these surveys that they did. And so I think it really helped us to do that first, because we could see, that way when we're reading the one we're supposed to read, like For Men Only, I could see where you were exactly like the majority of women in the surveys, and I could see where you were different. You may have been one in one of the minor categories of how you perceive things and what you need out of a relationship. So it helped me really tailor some, because I'd spent years doing what I thought was showing you love and sacrificing for you, and it was in the way that I receive love is how I was giving it, but you receive love and what you need out of a relationship are completely different, both partly because of the male-female difference, but also just individual personality differences as well. And so it really helped me understand what would have impact for you and really make you feel loved, and what wouldn't, and it would just be wasted effort for me and make me frustrated, because I would feel like I was working to make you feel loved and it wouldn't make you feel loved at all. So
Totally agree. Totally agree. And just so people know, we have read and examined the 5 love languages already. I've read Love is Respect. That's another one that people, name off as a good marriage book. We've done a lot of the marriage stuff. Okay. So I'm just saying, if you've done all those things, but you haven't read these, please get these. These might be a game changer for your marriage. I agree with you. I think I didn't even really understand what I needed until I read the For Men Only about women. When I read this first, I was like, oh, And oh, all women feel like that? Or like most women feel like that? Or, oh, that's not me. But it was kind of amazing how clarifying, like you said, just the book on you was about you. Because even though we think we know, you may not realize all this stuff. I mean, it's just not totally intuitive. So I feel like these were just game changers for us, and I cannot wait to share this in life group. We're very excited. We are starting on September 16th. If you're local to Dripping Springs, Texas, we would love for you to join. If you want to email me for information about the life group, you can email me at joan@dream-catalyst.com, and I would be happy to respond and give you the names of the books if you didn't get them from here, or if you just want more information on the life group. If you're not local, but you would like to join a life group like this, there's a couple different things you can do. One is you can get the books and start your own at your own church. That would be amazing. If you aren't ready to do that and you just would like to have some coaching online, Jeff and I have kind of agreed that although we're starting this life group in person this fall, by this springtime, we could start an online one if people are interested in that. And I would love to just tell you guys, I think that these books, if you just skim through them, okay, we've talked about this, Jeff. If people just skim through these, they're going to be like, well, duh, that may like it's not earth-shattering information when you look at just the topics. The difference is when you read through the entire book and then you see the whole picture of the person. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's also, they have some very specific um, examples where they verbally followed up with some of the survey people who were willing to talk to them about things and ask them for examples of, how this survey data manifests itself, in your real life, because you feel this way, like the survey says that men do or whatever. There's some really very specific examples that I think really help drive home how it appears and how it works or doesn't work in real life.
I agree. And Jeff, so just to give men hope out there, if they're either going through a rough time or they've been going through a rough time, or they just are like, would like more, from their marriage, from their relationship. I mean, you and I talked about this earlier today. There's nothing worse than being married to someone who you love, but still feeling lonely. Like that ache is awful. And I mean, it's awful if you're lonely, but I feel like if you're supposed to not be lonely because you have someone, it's almost a little bit like this isn't what I signed up for, right? So if somebody's going through that, or even maybe speaking to the women in the audience, if they are in a place where they are pretty desperate and they're like, I don't know what else to do. Like, what would you tell the audience who hasn't read these books and been through this? What would you give them as kind of your biggest takeaways from
Well,
this process?
sure.
Not just
Well, first, I think it's not necessarily, directly related to the books, but first, I think you have, like we talked about, you have to get yourself in the right place individually. You have to, if you're feeling burnt out, or if you're feeling unappreciated, or if you're feeling frustrated, you have to get yourself into a healthy emotional place, and physical for that matter, but particularly emotional. And part of that, I completely and unequivocally believe, has to be God related, has to be closing that relationship, making it closer, really getting yourself in a really good situation with your relationship with God as well. It's, and we all have stuff that we have, built up baggage about, whether it's resentment, whether it's, guilt or shame, whatever. You have to turn that over, and you have to get that out and get rid of that and forgive yourself as much as also get God's forgiveness before you can really engage, whether you
and just tell them really
engage
quick,
or not.
what is your suggestion on how do you do that? How do you do that process?
Well, I mean, for me, it was a pretty quick process. I mean, it was days for me, but we also had the catalyst of us separating, right? That was a huge um, uh, stake in the ground for me. And I realized, a lot of what was causing some of our issues to continue to grow was that I had not been in the right place for a long time. I had not, really taken care of myself emotionally or physically for that matter. So for me, it was really, I had to take, I, that stake in the ground got me very quickly to a point where I realized that I could not do this alone. I could not carry this baggage. I could not hate myself and make either my life work like I wanted to, or um, have our marriage come back together the way I wanted. So, I basically, ended up face down and telling God that I could not do this alone anymore, and I needed him, and I needed him to remove all of the emotional baggage that I was carrying around. And I woke up the next morning and 95% of it was lifted. It was kind of my miracle moment personally.
And I will say too, just for everyone listening, that it's the first time that I've ever heard Jeff say these words. And he said to me that next day, I feel like I feel the Holy Spirit for the very first time. And we've been Christians a long, long time. I
Mhm.
mean, most of our lives, if not all of our lives. I mean, grew up with the church around us. I mean, maybe not as much as it is today, but we were, we grew up in the church. So there's such hope in that though, that you can literally today start now and like take some quiet moments with God today and surrender everything to him, all your burdens, all your fears, all your doubts, and literally give it to him because his yoke is easy and light. And what you've been carrying around is too heavy. It's too heavy. So I think that's beautiful. Okay, well, that's the first one. What would be your second big takeaway from all of this, or some suggestion if you have it for
Well, I
people?
think that the second is to really focus on using these books or even other resources, but really focus on how your spouse, and it's for both the men and the women, how they receive love, what they emotionally need, not necessarily even in a marriage, but in any relationship, and figure out how every day you can do even just little things to touch on those aspects that they need to feel loved and feel secure in the relationship.
Very good. Very good. Well, I said I would do the same thing. I think that my takeaways from the last year, and especially for breathing new life into marriage, life group, is that there is an extraordinary thing that God can do in your marriage. And it is beyond anything you could ask or imagine, which we know from scripture, but really though, because if you had told me this time last year that we would be in this place, I wouldn't have believed it. Like, I don't think I thought it was possible in almost less than a year, I mean, just shy of a year, for us to be in this much better place. And especially, no offense to you, Jeff, but I'm just saying, women are like tend to be in the headspace a little more than men and trying to grow and change and do the things. So I don't think I would have anticipated at all that you could be so exponentially further than where you were. Like, I don't think I thought that that would be I know I would have been like, nah, there's no way. And I think people need to hear that. Like, God can work a miracle in your relationship and a miracle in you in less than a year. In a less than a year's time, you could be in a completely better place, a place that you've never been before. And we've had a good solid marriage for many years. It's not that we didn't have a good marriage, but we had to work on it and we had things to work on. And just some things got out of control. I mean, it's like I think that everybody kind of experienced that with COVID. Whatever was wrong got glaringly wrong for most people, and whatever was going right got glaringly right. And we saw where the pieces didn't mix, you know. But I would say that's the first thing, is have hope. There is hope. And whether it's that you need to separate, maybe it's that you need to stay together, maybe you need mentoring from your church, maybe you need to get a great therapist, maybe you need a couples therapist, maybe you need individual therapy, maybe you need quiet time with God, like Jeff said, and you need to give it all to him. Maybe you need these books, maybe you need to join the life group. I don't know, but I know there's an answer. So my thing is like hope, hope, hope. There is an answer, and it's bigger and better and more wonderful than you could have imagined. And that will be just for you in just the right time. So trust in that. You're exactly where you need to be for God to take it from here. And then I think the second thing that I would tell women is, and this is from me to you, women, if this is where you're at in your marriage, he is behaving the way he's behaving for good, solid reasons. And they aren't what you understand, because it's not the way your brain works. It's not the way you see the world, but he's doing it for a good reason. And honestly, for men, same thing, right? Women are doing what they're doing for a reason. It's not just to bother you, and it's not just to push all your buttons. It really is for a good, solid reason. And I think that what's so good about these books is not only do they get into what those reasons are, but then they give you practical advice on what to do about it. Like, how do you handle that with when she does this, or how do you handle that when he does this? And in a way that lifts your spouse up instead of tearing them down and breaking their heart, which is what we are doing. I think I didn't realize, and I mean, as soon as I think I was what, Jeff, I was doing an audio book, because the for women only book I could only get on audio first. And so I listened to the audio book on a trip, and I called you and I was in tears. I was like, I'm crying. And you were like, why? And I was like, because I realized some of what I was doing was hurting you all these years. And I just did not know. Like, I had no idea. And I'm so sorry that some of the ways that, you know, I was acting and some of the things I was doing were to help myself, but I didn't know it was hurting you. And I think you felt the same way. But it was just such an incredible thing to have that perspective shift. So I would tell people, you know, give this a chance and have hope and get the help you need, but there is a way through that makes sense. And what's happening is for a reason. And I, you know, I always teach this in coaching, but life is a lesson from birth to death. If you don't understand that you've been learning this whole time, then you're not paying attention, because you've been learning this whole time. And whoever you're with is teaching you something. Your spouse, your kids, your particular children, you as their parent, everybody's teaching everybody, even the ones that bug you, even the guy on the road that's driving like a crazy person. Okay. Everything's a lesson. And so we have to start to look at it like that. And I think this year has just woken me up so much to that in my own life and for us. So, well, I'm super excited about the life group. Are you super excited, Jeff?
Absolutely. I think it, you know, will really be amazing to be able to take some of what we've been able to learn and apply, and really, you know, turn our marriage from probably, you know, disintegrating completely into being in a much better relationship and much more symbiotic, I would say, than we ever have been. So
Well, and just
I'm really
feeling
excited.
that, yeah, feeling that love fulfilled all the time, like, and not having that I don't feel loved thing happening for either one of us is just, it's huge. It's huge. It makes everything easier. It makes all of your world light. So we can't wait to dig in with people. So I'll put the link to the life group here if you're interested in your local. If not, shoot me an email. Let me know that you would be interested in one virtually, or please get the books. Do it with your spouse. See what happens. Do it with a couple or a couple of friends if you don't have a church group. It's not, it is based on Christian values and from a Christian perspective, but it's not a whole filled with scripture book or anything. So if you have a spouse that's not into that, it's okay. Nothing in here I think is going to really offend anybody. I think they're really good. So Please check it out, and just thank you guys for listening. And I just want to remind you all that I believe in you, and I believe that God has you here for a purpose and a reason. And if he put you here and your heart is still breathing, your heart is still breathing, your heart is still beating, and your lungs are still breathing, then you still have a purpose. And he's got a plan that is so big and fantastic. And all he needs you to do is believe, because he's putting all the right people, all the right circumstances in your way so that you can make it happen. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and share this with a friend. We would love to bless some people who might need to breathe new life into their marriage. Have a good day.